Alright, it's Skyrim. You know it, I know it, it's been ported to every console, phone, and refrigerator, but it hasn't really hit right for tabletop role-playing games. I'm going to make the most obvious statement here and say Skyrim is massively influential. From its heavy simulation magic crayons like this clit finder simulator they call a lockpicking minigame, to its incredibly in-depth alchemy and crafting mechanics, it's no wonder there's so many people that have tried to port this thing over to TTRPGs, but no one has really truly hit the nail on the head. I think it's just one of those situations where people keep trying to make it a 5e thing, but 5e player characters are super-powered fantasy characters, and the setting stays fairly mid to low magic. It's also hard to find supplements that really arm you for the deep crafting and open world exploration that Skyrim excelled at. 5e is also pretty set with its leveling being done through classes and subclasses, and Skyrim's advancement is classless with unlockable perks through the star signs. In some ways I would say that the leveling is actually closer to like Pathfinder or Zweihander than 5e, but we also had another option open up in the last year. Chubby Funster dropped Shadowrim on DriveThruRPG this year, and I just picked it up on a random whim. It promised to be a ShadowDark adaptation of the setting, and it was going for $20 at the time. This isn't just a supplement for ShadowDark, it's a full-on self-contained TTRPG using the ShadowDark engine, and it's incredible how much better ShadowDark suits Skyrim as an engine for tabletop roleplay. I think too often, young homebrewers will try to perfectly model the mechanics of a video game and shoehorn them into a system that they want to play, but that's not what happened here. Chubby developed new subsystems that hit the familiar mouthfeel of the crafting mechanics, but maintained ShadowDark's low mental load ethos. This wasn't someone slapping together rules that they tried to reinterpret from a video game. It's clear that Chubby understood Kelsey Dion's vision for ShadowDark and came up with a brilliant piece of fan work here. And if you're not familiar with how to play ShadowDark, I have a guide that I'll link right here. I know the lighting sucks in that video, but it's still good info, I promise. Okay, so let me go through what I know you all want to know. There's no classes here like there are in ShadowDark. Instead, you choose one of 9 signs to align yourself to. Leveling is handled the same way it is in ShadowDark, where you gain a talent determined by your class, which you roll for each level. If you already have a talent that can't stack, such as the knowledge of a spell or a shout, you'll just gain 1d4 hit points. It's not exact to Skyrim's constellations, but this version is infinitely more practical for TTRPGs. More advanced tables might be able to find a multi-class-like mechanic to make this hit closer to the source material, but I'm kind of loving just embracing your sign and building into that. Alright, the whole alchemy subsystem. Alchemy is here, and it's handled gracefully and with an interesting twist. You discover the use for ingredients as you would in Skyrim, but the effects that the ingredient can infuse into a potion are determined randomly. Once they're determined, they're set for that campaign. If you choose to do another Shadowrim game, you can either use the same list you established or generate something new if you want to avoid some metagaming. There's thoughtful decisions that went into this subsystem, and I legitimately can't think of anything I'd want to add here. It's light load, but also deep at the same time, and evocative of the first time you ever made a character and discovered this massively engaging alchemy system in Skyrim. Shouts are here. They're handled almost identically to spells, but they're exclusive to those following the Sign of the Blade. I feel like this is mostly a lore-based thing, so if you wanted to open this path up to other ancestries, I don't personally see a problem really coming up, just have them adopt it as like a new talent. There's 7 shouts in total, and yes, Busroda is here. I do have to say this book does suffer a bit from not having a sorted list separating the spells and the shouts, so the only thing indicating a difference is actually in its description. Like I said, you're only getting the shouts through the Sign of the Blade, but a reference would have been nice considering you have to sift through about 60 spells to find them. It is in alphabetical order, so yeah, this is just more of a nitpick than really a legitimate problem. Smithing and metals are exactly what you'd hope for. The metals here are going to feel familiar, and they give the modularity of the 2024 weapon mastery system in a less bloated, more modular package. They modify the crafted item's statistics in small ways, typically by altering AC, damage, or gear slots. This also combines with magic item effects, so the potential combinations for this are just virtually limitless. To smith with these metals, you need an ingot of the metal per 10 coins of value of the base weapon, and you need to pass a DC 15 wisdom check. On a success, you make the weapon. On a failure, you waste the materials. Pretty clean cut. Now that leads us into enchanting. So there's a whole subsystem here for weapons, armor, and item enchantments, hitting super close to the inspiration. You're still doing the whole soul gem capture thing, but it's been simplified for tabletop by reducing it down to 3 types of souls. Beast souls are roughly equivalent to a common magic item in D&D, providing a minor effect like a scent or change of appearance. Think of like the Cloak of Billowing, just allowing you to make it billow dramatically in the wind. Mortal souls give the item a substantial beneficial effect, but with the trade-off of also having a curse. The final one is Vile Souls that grant a benefit without a curse, or you can remove a curse from an item. It's also opened up for GM interpretation for any wild new effects you might want to come up with, so it's simultaneously more practical and more modular. I'm simplifying it here for the video, but this whole subsystem fits on like all of about 7 pages. Now, on the locations and the map, nearly every point of interest in Skyrim appears in the final 100 pages of this book. It arms you with Shadowrim as a hex crawl, taking a light touch approach regarding what's happening with the conflicts and the factions. The provided map gets the general idea across, but it would seriously benefit from a cartographer's touch. I'm sure replicating the Skyrim map one for one would just be begging for a lawyer to knock at your door, but the hex map of just the terrain is really tough to decipher, especially for grayscale printers and the colorblind. Even some simple location markers would have been a really welcome touch. As far as the book quality goes, it sticks to the familiar ShadowDark format with its own welcome Skyrim-inspired twists on the formula. The headers have a slight cosmic texture, and the fonts are Gaudi rather than Montserrat. The downside here is that it's still using DriveThruRPG's print-on-demand service, which is limited to case-bound hardbacks. Despite this, the $22 price tag makes this really hard to knock, and I've watched my own copies stay together despite the abuse that I put books through in research. I'm going to say the effort and passion that went into making this thing makes this an instant buy for any Skyrim fan who's into TTRPGs. While the monsters are statted for ShadowDark, you could easily use them for Old School Essentials, Vagabond, Knave, or any other BX derivative system with little issue. You can pick up a copy for your entire gaming table for about $100 USD, and it's one of the best steals you're going to find on DriveThruRPG. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you to all my Patreon sponsors to help me keep the lights on around here and coffee in my blood. You all are absolute heroes. I hope you all are staying safe, staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.